Alrighty, guys and gals, we're back here with the integumentary system. Let's keep it moving. So, the skin is actually, so this is a nice trivia question. You could, wow your boyfriend, wow your girlfriend, wow your mom, your dad, your sister next time you're playing trivia at the, I don't know, Thanksgiving dinner. I don't know who does that, but if somebody asks, oh, what's the largest organ of the body? You are going to say the skin, because the skin is the largest organ of the body. So, there's actually two layers of true skin. There's the epidermis, epidermis, that's the more superficial layer. Then there's the dermis, which is deeper than the epidermis. So those are the two layers of true skin. Also a third layer of skin. It's not considered true skin, but below the dermis is the hypodermis, also called the subcutaneous layer. So epidermis, dermis, those are true skin, and then there's a third layer just hanging out below. It's the subcutaneous layer. So the epidermis is composed of stratified squamous epithelium. So the cells are very close together. It aids in protection, really. So the cells are close together, nothing can pass through, essentially, there. So that aids in the protection, the barrier of the body here. So the epidermis is avascular, so epithelial tissue, it's avascular. It doesn't have a blood source, so it does need to have connective tissue below at some point to provide nutrients to the avascular area of the epidermis. And cells of the epidermis are keratinocytes, melanocytes, Langerhans cells, and Merkel cells, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. So the keratinocytes, actually, let's first talk about the layers of the epidermis. So layers of the epidermis, the bottom layer is going to be the stratum basale. Layer above it is going to be the stratum spinosum. Layer above that is going to be the stratum granulosum. Layer above that, in areas that have no or rougher areas, so the palms of the hands, the soles of the feet, that's going to have really rough skin there, so it's going to be the stratum lucidum. And then above that is going to be the stratum corneum. So if the soles of the feet, palms of the hand, those have 5 layers. Other places, say like on the chest or something like that, those have 4 layers. So it goes the stratum basale, which is the most reproductive layer, stratum spinosum, which is where the lipids fill the vesicles, and keratin fibers start to form. And then in that stratum granulosum, boom, we're kind of thinning out. The old cells are getting pushed up the whole time, so the stratum basale is the most reproductive, and they're slowly getting pushed up to the top. And as they get pushed up to the top, they obviously become less and less mitotic. So they're becoming more mature as they raise to the top there. So the stratum granulosum, keratin fibers form keratin granules, and then the vesicles release the lipids, which aid in waterproofing even more. And then in addition to that, the stratum corneum and stratum lucidum, pretty much the same thing, except obviously the stratum lucidum is only found on the palms of the hand and soles of the feet, areas that are very rough. That's anucleated, multiple layers of stratified squamous cells, and they are anucleated because they're dead cells that are filled with keratin, essentially there. So as you raise to the top, become less and less alive, more dead, less mitotic, and eventually get slothed off at the top. And we're going to discuss the actual terms of that in a moment. But I do want to mention the keratinocytes. They are the primary cell of the epidermis, so they do produce keratin, which is a waterproofing protein. That's really what you need to know about keratin. That aids in that water or hydroregulation. Keratin protects, keeps the skin from taking in too much water, and it maintains the fluid balance. So those keratinocytes produce keratin, which is a waterproofing protein. But so I mentioned the stratum basale is the most reproductive, and it pushes the old cells to the top to the stratum corneum there. So this bottom layer, this most reproductive layer, the reproduction of new cells is called proliferation, and then differentiation is this next layer here. It's where, not next layer, but next step of cells in the epidermis. So differentiation is when cells turn from their immature state to their mature state, so they become mitotic to non-mitotic. And then finally, once cells reach the top of the epidermis, it's called exfoliation, which is pretty much the sloughing off, the removal of old cells up top. So new cells become less new, and once they get to the top, they wipe away. So we lose so many skin cells in a day. I don't know the exact number, but it's, you almost wouldn't believe it. How many, whatever, millions, billions, I'm not sure, just an almost unfathomable amount. Just completely getting, just skin cells going everywhere. But, so think of, keratinocytes or keratin and keratinocytes. Well, keratinocytes produce keratin, which is that waterproofing protein. Think of that as a wetsuit a scuba diver wears when thinking of keratin and keratinocytes. So the wetsuit keeps the water from taking in too much skin. It's real skin tight, obviously, but think of the waterproofing aspect. That's really what I'm trying to get to with the scuba suit there. So those are the keratinocytes. Let's delve a little bit into the melanocytes. Ooh, melanocytes. That's fun to say. Melanocytes. But melanocytes produce melanin. No surprise there. So melanin does aid in skin color, hair color. So everyone has the same amount of melanocytes. Depends on the skin color. Depends on how much melanin is produced. So the more melanin produced, the darker the skin will be. Less melanin produced, the lighter the skin will be, essentially. But everyone has the same amount of melanocytes. But darker skin folk do produce more melanin. Lighter skin folk do produce less melanin. That's really how it works. But melanin is arguably, and actually is, I mean, it's important with the skin color, hair color, but it's extremely important in protecting the DNA of keratinocytes. So melanin surrounds the nucleus that holds the DNA of the keratinocyte. So here's let's say a big keratinocyte cell. They aren't that big. Here's the nucleus. The melanin surrounds it, kind of hovers around to protect the DNA that's within the nucleus from UV rays. So the UV rays are coming down. This is actually a light bulb, so it's not UV rays, but UV rays are coming down. Melanin hovers around to, we're just going to protect this nucleus here, protect all this DNA. So melanin, it does aid in skin protection, but if you just sit under the sun, by the time the melanin is produced, your skin's already going to be damaged, so it is advisable to wear sunblock to protect you from these harmful UV rays. The melanin does aid in protection, but the skin will already be damaged by the time the melanin is produced. So that's something to keep in mind. But melanin, it does hover around the nucleus of the keratinocytes to protect the DNA from UV rays. That's the major pro or major function of melanocytes and melanin. So think of melanin as the kind of umbrella that protects. I'm the DNA of keratinocytes. I'm holding the melanocytes just over my head to protect me from the UV rays from the sun. So we've discussed keratinocytes and melanocytes. Let's dig in. We're digging into the Langerhans cells. So the Langerhans cells are defense cells. They remove pathogens that are trying to move up higher into the epidermis. And they do identify and remove precancerous cells. So precancerous cells, our immune system helps to defend against that. Langerhans cells, obviously precancerous cells can turn into cancer since they are highly mitotic, so we obviously don't want that. So we're very, very grateful, very thankful for the Langerhans cells that identify these precancerous cells. Get them the hell out. Get out of here, buddy. Get out of here, precancerous cells. But Langerhans cells, they're akin to like a security at a concert that removes people that are causing a problem. So if there's people causing a problem, get out of here, buddy. See ya. And the Langerhans cells do the same exact thing with pathogens and obviously the precancerous cells. And last, but certainly not least, our boy, the Merkel cells. So Merkel cells, not too much about them we're going to discuss, but they do detect touch sensation, and they have a bunch of tactile receptors. So Merkel cells, tactile receptors, which is detecting touch sensation. So yeah, those are the cells of the epidermis. Got the keratinocytes, produce keratin. That's the primary cell of the epidermis. We got the melanocytes, produce melanin, skin color, hair color, and also protect the DNA of the keratinocytes. Langerhans cells, those are defense cells, and then Merkel cells, touch sensation. So we're going to continue our discussion in the next episode. Let's get it.